Well, good morning, YouTube. Welcome back to the Homestead. Today's project, well, I've been working on it for a little over an hour now, and I keep forgetting to pull out the camera to record. So right now we are in, I don't know what you call it. It's our laundry room. Our washer and dryer's right here. So we got some shelves, and this is the front door to our house. It's always felt a little cramped. When you come in, it feels like you're walking into a closet, because essentially this is a closet behind me. This is another closet right here. And then we have the opening that goes in to the hallway to the kitchen. Just too cluttered. So I want to open all this up and completely redesign it. In addition to that, the floors below me, pretty bad shape. You can see that right now I've got plywood screwed down on top of my laminate floors because it was so soft through here that we felt like we're going to fall through. That's because the original hot water heater had been leaking, the toilet had been leaking, the tub had been leaking, and apparently the washer and dryer had been leaking. Now, these were all problems that existed before we bought this home. And some of them I didn't notice right away, and some of them happened after we owned the home. But it all culminated into having really soft, rotted floors right here where you walk into the house. So these pieces of plywood have been screwed down here for probably 4 years now, if I had to guess. Just as a temporary, so we didn't fall through. And well, it's time to fix that. But in the essence of opening everything up, I want to do a complete remodel on this. So what I've done so far today is I pulled all the shelves out of here. You can kind of see the lines. There were shelves in here, and we just stored all kinds of things here, like some of our medicines, umbrellas, the dog's leashes. We stored our shoes down here from when we came in. Lots of junk, basically. And without doors on it, it just looked cluttered with just a bunch of junk on shelves. And I don't like that my dining room is right on the other side of this. You can't see, and you can't see the kitchen. So we decided this wall is going to completely go away. This is going away. This is going away. That wall over there is actually going to get pushed back about the width of this closet. Washer and dryer going to get turned another way. Cabinets, whatever. Lots of stuff. We're not going to get that far today. But I pulled out all this, and now my project is to move the hot water heater. I installed this on-demand hot water heater probably 4 or 5 years ago. And because the old one had leaked and ruined the floors, obviously, we came home from a cruise once, actually, back in 2017. Okay, so it's been more than 4 years. No, 18. Yeah, we came home from a cruise in 2018, and we came home after being gone for a week. The floors were wet. The hot water heater had rusted through the bottom. Water had been leaking out of it. Not pleasant. And that's probably what put this over the edge and made it really soft. For right now, I mean, obviously we need a hot water heater while we do this. This thing's pretty small. So I'm going to move it. I'm just going to put it downstairs in the crawl space for right now. But to do that, I've got to pull my water lines down through the floor. And even my power that runs from the sub panel over to it, I've got to get that wire down through the floor. So I've been kind of cleaning out this area down here. I'm going to drill another hole through the floor. And you can see here, whoever had the house before us, when they added things. Now, I added this panel just for the hot water heater. But all of this was already here and like this. And it was just terrible. They kind of did it the lazy way. And knowing that I was going to remodel this, I did this the lazy way. Now, this was all secured behind the shelving. But now we're going to do it right. So I am also going to replace the power panel in this remodel. So all the drywall in here is going to get redone, and all of these wires will be run inside the wall, and it'll be clean, professional, and look nice when it's all said and done. But now, unfortunately, I just ran into an issue. Because I've moved most of my tools and stuff over to the shop, I need a paddle bit to drill through that floor to be able to get these 3 cables through there. And I don't have a drill bit here big enough. So I got to run over to the shop, grab a drill and drill bit, and then come back and get back to work. All right, well, for poops and giggles, I took this 3/8 drill bit and went down there next to the wire where I know I need to go through, and it just punched through, and I wallowed around and it just all fell apart. Like I said, these floors are bad. It's all going to get replaced, but at least now I've got a hole big enough to get these wires run through. So time to disconnect them from the hot water heater, fish them down there, and then I got to cut the pipes. Well, I got to turn off the water to the house first, cut the pipes, and then move everything over. All right, so I've already cut power to the unit. There are 3 40-amp breakers. that feed off of a bigger breaker in here. And there are 3 sets. Ooh, looks like we got possibly an overheated wire in there. Might have to check those connections anyways. But yeah, each burner in here takes 220 volts to get the on-demand hot water. So I'm gonna come through and undo all my connections here, take out my strain relief from the box and then I can fish these wires down through the hole. Well, those two, no tools. I just pulled them out. You can see they've overheated. Either those terminals are bad or they weren't tight. Maybe I screwed up when I installed it. I don't know. All right, the main power is all disconnected. Now I can try to fish it down through the hole. Now I left the box connector on there for the strain relief. I'm hoping my hole's big enough. I might just be able to fish it all down at once. If not, I'll take that off and fish them individually and then put it back on. All right, so I shut the water off, turned on the kitchen sink, the bathroom sink, both hot and cold to relieve all the pressure. Then I went underneath the house and I cut the PEX line where it came through the floor and connected to my copper pipes. And then I'll just come up here, take out the screws and just pick the thing up, take it off. So now I'm gonna carry this under the house, remount it, replumb it, rewire it. All right, so the fun part, we'll be carrying this under the house. So I've got to go outside, go into my garage, and then into a crawl space access point that goes under the house. Of course, you guys remember all the bikes we moved over here a few weeks ago. If you keep up with the other channel, but behind this door is my crawl space. All right, I'm gonna need both hands to crawl under here, so be back in a second. All right, here we are under the crawl space. Now you can see it's pretty dirty down here. You can see where water dripping is stained. And of course the debris from rotten wood as we walk on it, crumbling and falling down here. This right here is where the hot water heater was hooked to. There is my wire coming down from up top. Now we just got to find a spot to hang this unit, replumb it, rewire it. I also disconnected the AC duct that went to this register here, which is just inside the front door, just because it ran right through here and limited my workspace. And I'm going to move that anyways. I don't like it right inside the front door because it just catches a lot of dirt and debris right there. Well, routing the wires down here, I'm ending up with a little bit less length than I hoped I would, and it's limiting my possibilities of where I can mount this. Now keep in mind, this is just temporary. It's gonna get remounted once the remodel is done. I actually don't know where yet. That's one part of this whole thing I haven't figured out, is where I'm gonna put this. But at that point, I'll extend the wires or the plumbing, whatever, to wherever I need to. But for right now, I just want simple, quick, and the water to be turned off for a shorter period of time. So right now we're only off for about 10 minutes while I've removed it and got it down here. So I think I'm just going to hang it from one of these rafters as close as I can to get that wire to work. I've got plenty of pipe to make the plumbing work, but I don't want to have to run longer electrical because that gets really expensive. This plumbing stuff is dirt cheap. So for right now, I'm just going to hang it as basically like right there. That being all I have for a lead, I think I'm just going to hang it on the inside of this rafter right here. That way I can just run the wire over to it and be done. But I've got to shorten my pipes because they're way too long for it to stand up in this space. All right, all wired back in, and I gave each one of them a tug test. They're all definitely nice and secure now. All right, so I got a bunch of 3/4 PEX down here. I've got all my crimp fittings, my crimp tool, my collars, so on and so forth. I've even got some T's, which I shouldn't need. I got a bunch of 1/2-inch stuff as well, but everything here is 3/4. Here's my dilemma. With these fittings facing up, I'm gonna have to do a 90, bring it over, 90, bring it down, 90, bring it over, and then a 90 to bring it back up into these. And I don't have enough 90s for that. I only have 5 90-degree fittings, and that is because Lowe's was out of them. I could get the contractor packs on the straights, I could get the contractor packs on the T's, even contractor packs and all the 1/2-inch stuff, which I don't need today, but I bought it because I'm going to need it. So I had 2 of these. I bought the other 3 that Lowe's had. That's all I've got. So I brought my torch. I'm hoping that I can warm the pipe up. These pipes are long enough. Just do 190 at the top, 190 at the bottom, and bend them like an S. Heat them so that we don't strain them. I hope it works. I really do. Well, there we go. Nothing is crimped yet, but it's just kind of mocked up. It all curves, goes up there, hooks in, and only had to use 2 90s. So now I just got to crimp it all together, and hopefully that'll work. Well, I'm no plumber, but there we go. Everything's hooked up. Everything's crimped. Now, if you're not familiar with PEX, there's this little gauge that comes with the crimp tool. Now we're working with 3/4, so one of these sides says go. Actually, that one says no go. This one says go. So there should be one side that fits the crimp after it's been crimped, and the other side should not. So here we're checking the go side. You can see it goes over it. We'll check this one, and it goes over it. Flip to the no-go side, and it should not go over it. Doesn't go over it. So in theory, that means these crimps should be correct. I just double checked every single one that I did. So at this point, I'm ready to go turn the water on, make sure we don't have any leaks. And if we don't, then I'll go turn the power on and make sure that everything works. All right, so I turned the water on and I'm back down here and I do not see any leaks. I'm gonna yell up to Katie, turn the power on. That way I can check, see if everything works. Hi, honey, trip the breakers or turn the breakers back on. All right. All right, go turn on the bathroom sink. All right, she turned it on and I saw it light up. See if she turns on the hot water. Hot, honey. All right, there we go. It noticed the water moving and it's heating. All right, let me know if it gets hot. Sounds like we still got a couple air bubbles going through it. All right, so it appears that everything is good. It's working. I'm going to put the cover back on. We'll call this project done for the night. All right, guys, back at it again. I know it's only been a couple of seconds for you. However, we got done moving that hot water heater. That was Thursday night. Friday, we did nothing on this project because we had our snow day. And if you watch the main channel, you'll know that we just kind of took yesterday off, ran some errands in the morning, and the kids and the grandkids all played in the snow for the rest of the day. And it was a good time. But today, we've got to get back on this. So here's what I think I'm gonna do today. And that video about the snow day will actually be coming out on the main channel today at noon, but you guys will probably see that before you see this, assuming that you watch the main channel. I don't know. All right, so on Thursday, we ripped out all the shelving in here and we moved the hot water heater down below. Today, start taking out this wall, taking out this wall. If we get far enough, we might even take out this wall. But I'm gonna start with doing trim. Now, like, there are some light fixtures in here. I'm gonna take off the face plates, rip off all the trim, the door casings, this door, that door, the bathroom door, my bedroom door over there. Then around the corner, there's an office door. It's all gonna come off anyways. So we're gonna start with that. And then if we get far enough, like I said, we'll start cutting into this wall and taking it down, which will open everything up to the kitchen. Now, just a real brief history before I get to swinging hammers in here. Some of you that have been following me for a while know that we bought this house back in 2016, and it had been bank owned, foreclosed on many years before. The bank actually had possession of it for quite some time, and it had been neglected. There was water issues coming in underneath, which is why I encapsulated everything down there. It was so wet under this house that the floor joists that we're standing on now, from underneath, you can literally just see water dripping off of them because the humidity down there was just awful. And on top of that, there were many repairs done to this property by the previous occupants that were just subpar. Like, they just kind of patched things, didn't really repair anything properly, which, you know, you'll see in certain areas like the ceilings up here where they did a patch and it just looks terrible. Yeah, just a lot of ugly stuff. So we're going to try to fix all of that in this process. Now, one of the problems with everything being wet down there, and after I did all the mold remediation and got the water stopped from coming in there, not in that order, obviously, then I encapsulated, and we have a whole home dehumidifier down there. So the humidity down there stays nice and dry, and it's been years, so all the wood has dried out. But in the process of drying, the wood has taken a new shape, and so we have issues like this every once in a while. Well, you'll see there's a crack in the wall because this wall has settled. Over here towards the kitchen, you can see where that trim right there doesn't line up. You can see where that trim stayed attached to the ceiling, this trim stayed attached to the wall, and there's a gap up there where this is all just dropped down. It all seems to be worse on this side of the house. Now, all of the floor joists are actually in really good condition. There's no rot on them, they're all dried out. But I may have to go under there once we get these floors and all these walls torn out and get the wood replaced, and I may have to shore things up, but a few jacks, maybe a couple of the beams, and bring them back up to where they need to be so that the settling won't continue, because I don't want to put time and effort into a remodel and then have cracking happen years down the road again. So that's all part of the end goal, and this is going to be a multi-part series as we do this. This whole project isn't happening this weekend. We're just starting it because it's been long overdue. Well, only about 10-15 minutes in, I already hurt myself. The piece that was right here, so I knocked it out with the hammer, it fell over, and one of the nails sticking out of it got me right there as it fell. Ouch. So I'm going to take a moment to talk to you about, or show you specifically what I meant by things weren't built properly. So all I've done here is pull the paneling off of this, but look, I can grab that wall and I can move it. Right here, this like stud, so to speak, it's like a corner stud that they built. It's not attached to the top at all. So it's almost like they just put two corner studs in, and then built a knee wall on top of it. And it's not attached to the floor. It's only attached to the wall in a couple spots. When I took this side down, I pulled those two out first, and then just this kind of valance or knee wall was hanging from the top. 2 nails in the ends, 2 nails in this end, and that's all that was holding it. Once I pulled it out, the whole thing, it wasn't attached to the ceiling at all, which makes my job easier right now, but just goes to show some of the shoddy workmanship that they did when they built it to start with. All right, so it looks like I got pretty much all of the trim out of here, baseboards, this door jamb, all of the woodwork trim stuff. One thing that made it challenging, I mentioned, the work that they did on this house, the previous owners didn't do that great of a job. So when they put this laminate flooring down, they didn't remove the baseboards before they put it down. Now, you're supposed to take baseboards up, run your laminate flooring, put your baseboards back on top of it. So even though I'm not ready to pull the laminate out just yet, because the laminate is running underneath these pieces of plywood that I need for structure so I don't fall through, I wanted to get the baseboards off, but the baseboards were behind that laminate, which made it really hard to get out. So there were a few pieces I pulled out, but I got it. But now I got a mess to clean up, all the trim in here, plus everything out here from those closets. And I think what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go over there and grab my burn barrel, move it a little bit closer to the house, put the thin trim stuff in there first, break it up, get it lit, and then I can start feeding all this other crap into it. All right, and the reason I chose to move the burn barrel closer was because a lot of this little stuff like trim, I can just break it up over my knee and throw it in from the front porch and minimize how much walking through the snow I've got to do. That way I don't track more snow into the house. The bigger pieces, I'll just throw out there. I've got a bigger burn pile in the backyard for that stuff. And but that saves me the trips, and I have to carry all this little trim all the way out there too. All right, while that stuff burns down, I've minimized my pile to just the big stuff there. Some of the stuff that's fallen out, I'll just pick back up as that burns down a little bit. But my pile here on the porch is gone, except for a couple pieces of flooring. And everything inside is cleaned up. And I gave it a quick sweep just to minimize how much debris I was stepping on before I pulled this wall down. And I realized there's one more piece of trim there I forgot. All right, so now I guess it's time to start pulling the drywall down inside here. I scored a line right here because I really don't want to go this way just yet because of the washer and dryer, and I'm leaving that intact for the moment. We're gonna start going this way. I've also scored along the ceiling and down this corner. So hopefully we can try to get that section out, not making too much of a mess. I mean, we still gotta live in here. I'm trying to keep the dust and dirt down as much as possible, but it's gonna get dusty and dirty no matter what. All right, so I scored it right there also. That piece came off. Now we'll try to get the bigger piece off. I may actually score it halfway across the middle. Working with the smaller pieces might be easier and make less of a mess. All right, that worked well. Now try to pull the bottom one off. All right, definitely not as much luck with this piece. It came out in a bunch of pieces, but I think I've got this top part now where I can pretty much get it all out as one piece, I think, and then work on the bottom. All right, and now that I've got the drywall out on these two walls, I can take a look at my wiring because that's just got to be moved before the wall can come completely down. But I didn't want to just go cut through stuff with a sawzall, not knowing exactly where my wires were. So yeah, that's what we got to address next. All right, so I've moved to taking off the exterior, and I've cut along my seam where the two pieces of drywall meet. And then what I'm doing is from the back side, I'm actually beating it out. That gets some of the nails loose, more likely to be able to pull it off in one piece instead of a bunch of small chunks that way. So now it's mostly just held on by the top, hoping I can grab hold of it, pull it on out. All right, there we go, just like that. On out the door. All right, now we're gonna see if we can do the same thing with the bottom piece. But did you see how much trouble I had getting that out the door? And that's because of the configuration here. It's just a pain in the butt to move anything in and out of this house. Furniture, tables, refrigerators. because of all the angles, all that's going to go away when this whole wall is gone. Pry the edge out first. Seem to have worked better on the other sides. Hopefully that's enough. All right, so we're pretty much done to framing now. So I'm gonna take all my electrical boxes and my wiring loose from all the framework, and then I can start taking out studs, pulling the top plate, bottom plate out, and before you know it, we'll all be open. All right, as you can see, we've made some great progress, but I got to point something out here. That last piece I took out of the ceiling right there, which was the top plate. Look at how this was put in. So this is the top plate, and then there's a 2x6 on top of it. Now, the reason they did that is because they needed dead wood. They needed some place to attach the drywall, which makes sense. But that top plate or that dead wood was not attached to a rafter or anything. There was nothing structurally holding that. And normally you would tie in to rafters. Now all the rafters run this way. So all they had to do was put a couple pieces of blocking in between a rafter so that they could attach that wall and make it sturdy. That had to be a new construction because I believe this is an original wall to the house where those other two closet type walls were obviously added later. But it's the silly things that just take longer because I should have just been able to pry that top plate out of there. And I couldn't because it was bigger on top, bigger than the opening in the drywall. So for me to just pry it out, I would have broken all the drywall up. And I'm trying not to pull drywall down right now off of the ceiling because I don't want my insulation falling down in. It's a blown in insulation up there. So if I take that down, it all falls. I'm not saying we're not gonna replace it at some point, but I just don't want to do it right now. All right, things just took a little turn to the worse. I'm okay, don't worry, but I was trying to get a closer up view to show you how that was done up top. And I moved my step stool to a spot and, well, it went through the floor. So I moved my step stool and the one leg was right there, which wasn't a hole before I did it. But then I stepped on it. I got the second step up, was zooming in with the camera or getting ready to zoom in with the camera. And it just went through the floor. So the, excuse me. The step stool flew out, I flew sideways, and I landed on my side on the step stool, right on my ribs. I don't think I broke anything. Who knows? And if you break a rib, you can't fix it anyway, so carry on. Knocked the wind out of me for a moment. I almost wish the camera was rolling. As much as it hurt, I know it would have been funny to watch. And in the process, it completely twisted my step stool so it doesn't stand flat anymore. Oh well. All right, so from right here, you can kind of see up there how that board goes over. Just a pain in the butt the way it's done. But that's all that's left for that. And then this corner stud right here, and then some cleanup. Most of the demo will be done for today. Well, it's only about 4 o'clock, but I think I'm gonna call it quits for the day. I've cleaned up in there. I've got some debris out here, so all the drywall scraps and the big pieces. However, with the snow, I really don't want to deal with taking them out to the burn pile. A lot of this lumber here that came from the walls, it's actually some pretty good yellow pine. It's good and heavy and solid. And although the ends are messed up from where I had to beat them out, I can still use a lot of that for shorter lengths, for cross bracing or knee walls even, or whatever. So I'm not throwing that out yet, but all the little scraps all got burnt already. But the drywall I'll probably have to either take to the landfill, or I may, actually I've got some low spots in the yard that need to be filled. I may just take it out there and let it soak up water and get nasty and then just mash it in and fill it with dirt. I don't know. I don't know if that's the right thing to do. But remember how it looked like we were walking into a closet before? Now it doesn't look like we're walking into a closet. See, right straight into the kitchen, the living room, and of course the laundry room behind us, which, you know, all gonna be part of this project. So I've cleaned everything up, swept the floors. I think I'm gonna run a vacuum over it real quick as well, but that'll be it for today. I'm still hurting pretty good every time I bend over. My ribs hurt. Of course, my hand's swollen from trying to drive a nail through it. I don't know if you can tell, but it hurts every time I try to squeeze it. Yeah, I just beat myself up pretty good today. But all right, that's it for phase 1 of this project. There's gonna be a lot more phases to come, so stay tuned. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. Until the next time I see you, keep those engines running. Oh, and I almost forgot, tidying up the wiring. These 2 outlets are on this wall. I just kind of nailed them up there. That way they're still functional. The light switches that were right here were actually for the dining room light and the kitchen light. I just kind of ran them across the ceiling and hung them right there so that we can still use those. And then the 3 switches that were here, I just kind of tucked up into the attic. One of them was a secondary switch for one that's on the wall, so we still have access to turn this light on and off. The other was this 3-way switch that went here, so that one that's on the wall that did this light. And the other one was for this exhaust fan, which we really don't use that much. So they're just kind of tucked up there now, so they're not dangling, and that makes the area look much more open. You know, and also I'd like to think now it makes a little more sense. You guys understand why I wanted to build that deck out back before starting this project, because it's so easy to just fall through this floor. It's so bad. And as I start pulling up the temporary reinforcements I put down to get to it, it's going to be even worse. So it's just not safe for people to be coming in and out of here. So I think from now on, we're pretty much going to lock this door and put a note on it, let everybody know to use the back door to get in.